All right, let's see how this goes. Do you have everything on him? Oh my goodness. In today's video, we're going to be looking at kind of a hybrid pyro build that's going to be focusing on a ton of firepower in terms of damage. You're going to be hitting over 2 mil solo per bullet, which is pretty ridiculous. You're going to be one bursting a ton of elites if you do the combos correctly. And then also this is a AP build in the process, and that's going to be more towards your mobbing side. Your skills are going to be taking out a lot of the trash ads and then volcanic rounds for the elites. And overall, these two areas together combined end up equaling a build that pretty much does everything. If you guys want to debuff in co-op play, you're going to be able to do that, and also solo, and just deal a ton of damage and have ease running through CT15. But otherwise, before we fully jump into the video, if you guys want to come stop by Twitch and see all these builds live, make sure you head on over there. Also ask me any sort of questions you guys have. Let's go ahead and jump into this build video. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is our skills for this build. So the three that we're using are Heat Wave, Volcanic Rounds, and Thermal Bomb. Heat Wave and Thermal Bomb are going to be our skills that we use for debuffing, and then also ad clear. So any sort of trash ads, you don't need to waste your volcanic rounds on them. Our cooldowns are so low for all three abilities. You guys can spam heat waves and thermal bombs all the time and just clear out the huge hordes of trash ads, and then just save volcanic rounds for the beefier enemies and your elites. And like I said, if you're doing your combos correctly, one burst from your tac AR with volcanic rounds will end up killing an elite as long as you're hitting crits, and it's just disgusting the amount of damage you can end up putting out with this build. Next, I want to move into the skill tree because I think it is amazing because it's just super weird. I've never used a skill tree like this before, and I think it's awesome not just to be completely spent out in just like one tree. We're utilizing every tree in some degree, which is really nice. And pretty much the whole premise of this tree setup is to get firepower and then also cooldowns. So as we can see, we can get wildfire and all that over here for our cooldowns on our different abilities, but otherwise activating an explosive skill. So our thermal bombs, we're going to increase our weapon damage by 35%. Also Inferno bullets, we're going to be stacking our anomaly power really high as well with our Akari sets. This is actually going to be helping out our firepower in the process. And then activating any sort of skills will increase our weapon damage as well right there. Also, we're going to deal increased damage to enemies at low health, so you can help burn them down or burst them down, doesn't really matter. And then our main weapon of choice is going to be an assault rifle, so we are going to be getting Assault Master up here in the top tree. Now moving on over to the most important aspect of this build, and that is going to be our gear. We're going to be looking at the weapons first. Now the hardest thing to obtain when building this build is going to be a purple tac AR, because this thing is obviously always going to be random, and a skill that you're going to need on it is Anomaly Enhancement. It has to roll with Anomaly Enhancement there because we're going to be changing the second perk, so we need Anomaly Enhancement because what we're trying to do with this build is stack up our anomaly power really high, and that's also in turn going to boost our firepower and just end up with a really nice hybrid build where everything can do a ton of damage. So once you guys get a purple AR with Anomaly Enhancement on it, if you guys are looking for the perfect passives on it, crit damage is always really good. Status power helps a ton with our burns and just dealing a lot of extra passive damage. And then also long range damage is nice too. You guys can take your pick between long range, close range, whatever you want in that category. But otherwise, the second mod that we're going to be running on this AR, I personally like Fortress because it gives me survivability and a boost to damage in everything that we're doing. But if you guys want to focus purely on your AR damage, you can put Dark Sacrifice on. That does a ton of damage. You're going to be beating out Fortress with the actual volcanic rounds, but your heat waves and thermal bombs are going to take a little bit of a hit. So it's kind of up to you. I personally like Fortress just for an all-around setup. Now, I've tried several different options as a secondary with this build. I always just settle back on the Anomaly just as a swapping weapon because 99% of the time I will have the tac AR in my hands. Even when Volcanic Rounds is up, I'm just shooting with that anyways to keep Fortress up. And also just the tac AR by itself with what we're using, it does end up killing the trash mobs, so it works perfectly fine as just an all-around use weapon. I just like this for when Volcanic Rounds is up and I just need a lot of burst damage very quickly. Also, I can apply Vulnerable with it, which is really nice. And then the secondary really doesn't matter. Run whatever you guys want here. Like I said, it just really does not matter. I almost never use a sidearm with this setup. I just keep this out 99% of the time and do some weapon swaps with the Anomaly, Moaning Winds, and Radiation Splash. Now moving on over to the armor. The armor set that we're going to be using is the Akari set, just because we can boost our Anomaly through the roof and in turn boost our firepower through the roof as well. So I like to use the helmet, chest piece, and pants in terms of the Akari set. Otherwise, the mods for it, in the helmet, I keep Fire Tsunami and then put on Burnt Out so we can get the debuffs out of heat waves. On the chest piece, I end up putting Reforging Bullets in the top slot and keeping Tidal Wave there so we can get an extra heat wave. Also, you guys are just going to be aiming for crits. When you're using this build, use the volcanic rounds fairly sparingly. Make sure you're lining up those crits so you can keep the magazines up for as long as possible. There is a very short cooldown, it's only 14 seconds, so it's not a huge deal if you end up losing it, but it's very nice to help keep it up with Reforging Bullets. And then the mods on the pants, we keep Anomaly Echo and then put on Ride the Wave for the third heat wave. And then on our gloves, I use Fire Frenzy and Branded for the Thermal Bomb debuffs, and then just in term, the thermal bombs are going to be giving us a ton of ad clear as well, so these gloves are really helpful. And on the purples here, Anomaly, Status, and Cooldown is pretty much what I always run on my Pyro. And then finally moving on to the boots mods, I run Bullet Kindling. These are the base mod on these. And then I end up running Extra Mag. If you guys want to go for just like pure boss damage, especially if you're running in like co-op, I really do like Susceptibility. That's the tier 3 Volcanic Rounds mod that reduces the target's resistance by 50% when you hit them with Volcanic Rounds. So if you guys want to do a lot of damage to bosses, run that. But in most like solo play and just all around play, I found Extra Mag to be the best because we can get that second magazine of Volcanic Rounds. Otherwise, for playing this build, all you're going to be doing is just spamming your heat waves and your thermal bombs on different enemies. I really don't even bother using my Volcanic Rounds on a lot of these trash ads. I save it for the elites for the most part because this does do a pretty darn decent amount of damage even to enemies like this. And as long as you're hitting your crits, you're going to be hitting some pretty crazy damage numbers. But then once there is elites, just make sure you are hitting the different enemies with your heat waves so you can get Akari to stack up. And then otherwise, just get all your debuffs on the target that you want. As you can see, we hit 1.7 million damage with one singular bullet out of this TAC AR. So the damage potential is it's just crazy. Just straight up crazy with the debuffs. And then Volcanic Rounds, all of that put into one is just disgusting. Yeah, overall, the potential of this build in terms of damage is just through the roof, especially if you guys are playing co-op and you get some other people debuffing. You're going to be one bursting all the bosses in the game, basically. And once again, that's only with an 86k assault rifle. I can get way better, and I could also just put on Dark Sacrifice if I really just want to go for these stupid damage numbers. But this build is just a ton of fun. It's been a long time since I've played any sort of like firepower pyro, and the awesome part to me is that it's a hybrid and our skill tree looks just ridiculous like this, and I love it. So overall, I think this is one of my new favorite builds for the game, at least on Pyro. This thing just absolutely shreds. It's a lot of fun. I can use AP, I can use firepower, I can literally do everything with this build, and it's just perfect for me. Otherwise, once you guys get the hang of the learning curve in terms of like knowing when to be shooting your Volcanic Rounds, when to be using them on what elites and so on, you guys will have a much easier time. And once you guys put this into co-op as well, you're gonna have an even easier time just because you don't have all the threat on you. Co-op is definitely a lot easier with the setup with all your debuffs, but in solo, you guys will have no issue as well, just basically one bursting all of your different elites. But hopefully you guys have as much fun with this build as I do. If you guys have any questions, like I said, make sure you guys come over by Twitch. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching this far in the video, and I will catch you all in the next one. See ya.